In this After Effects tutorial, I'd like to look at some of the things you can do to navigate your timeline, as well as using the graph editor and navigating that. This will change the way our timeline looks. First off, I'm looking at a composition that has one layer in it. That's the medium royal blue. If I click on it, you see it's highlighted. And it's a 30-second long timeline. However, the animation only happens for a couple seconds. So you can see I really don't need to look at the entire timeline. I'd like to open up my keyframes and see where they are. So I'm going to open up this footage item, open up the transform panel, or items, and you'll see that I have keyframes going to about 1 second long, so not very long at all. So one of the things I can do is I can choose to zoom in. When I zoom in, you'll notice that it zooms into wherever my timeline indicator currently is. So that's kind of nice. So I want to place my timeline indicator with my keyframes. That way I can zoom in right to them. As I zoom in, notice at the top I have what's called my time navigator indicator, which has a beginning and end point, and I can click and drag that as well, and it will change the way that the timeline looks. Now if I drag that back out, I want you to notice the other work area bar that I have here, and that's a very important thing to set because that determines the length of my RAM previews. And I want to drag that all the way back to fit the area that I'm working on right now. Now if I zoom back in with the time navigator tool right here, you'll see that I'm not quite where I want to be. So I'm going to place my mouse or my time indicator directly at the keyframes that I want to make my work area fit to, and I'm going to do this with a keyboard shortcut of N. That is the end of my work area. I can also do the beginning by hitting the B key. Of course I want this work area at the beginning anyway, so I'm going to click and drag it back. So there's a very simple way of dragging along your timeline and increasing your view. I should notice that you can also click on your work area and slide it left and right, as well as your viewing area and slide it left and right. You can use this very quickly to navigate your timeline. So here I'm zoomed in a little bit, and I want to show you the next indicator, or next timeline view, which is kind of interesting. This is the graph editor view. If I click on it, notice that right now it changes my timeline so I don't have keyframes anymore, but it shows me a graph of 0 to currently 100. Now in order to see a graph, I need to click on what type of property I want to view. So right now I've clicked on the property of position, and you can see a graph for position. And this shows me the position changes I have in this animation. Now if I want to view something else, I go to Scale and then Rotate. Now it should be noted that you need to be careful of working in the graph editor because you can click and move things, and unless you're used to using this, you can actually change your numbers. So notice on my left my numbers are changing here as I click and drag up, and it's only changing this one particular property, not both. So I'll go take that back to 0. I can also move it out, and this will in turn, like if I want it to start rotating at frame 10, I can drag that point out to frame 10, and this is changing the keyframes just like if I were moving the keyframe manually in keyframe view. So you can see it's moved it up to 10 frames. I could move it back, and if I go back to graph editor, you'll see it's back at the position. Now if I want to view multiple keyframe or graphs at the same time, I can click on the icon for the graph indicator for that property, and you'll see that now I can view my property for position, scale, and rotation all at the same time in the graph editor. This will enable me to fine-tune the animation. This is similar to using the graph editor in Flash, but it's all bundled into one little graph editor window here in your timeline. In future assignments or future videos, we might look at more advanced features of using this. For right now, that's all I want to really show. If I go back to my main keyframe view, this is the type of view that will be in most of the time. And that's it.